Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back for notes 17. I know it's been a few days. Alright, again, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it. These are going to be note 17, interpreting functions. Again, this is a lot of things that I'm introducing or I'm going over are from Algebra 1. Just a quick review. Okay, so let's get started. So you guys have a parabola, right? It's asking you for the domain and the range, and then we're going to find f of -2, f of 1, and we're going to say if it's a relation, right? And then explain why it's a relation, and then find x when f of x is equal to -2. So let's start off with the domain. Now, again, last time I told you guys, the domain has to do with your x values, okay? So if you guys notice, the lowest x value that I can have is right there, which happens to be -2. Now, notice that it's an open circle, and because it's an open circle, it does not include it. So I have to put a parenthesis. The parenthesis does not include the number, okay? It does not include it. Now, what is the highest x value? Well, if you guys notice, it goes all the way to +2. So I have comma, +2. Now notice that that one is a closed circle, okay? And because it's a closed circle, it includes the 2. So that is a bracket, okay? Now, if we go ahead and do the range, same thing, but the range talks about the y. So what is the lowest y value that I have? And notice this one's interesting because the lowest y value that I have is -2. Now, if you're thinking, oh, wait, Mr. Franco, it's a bracket. It's a parenthesis because it's open right there. That is right. But it's also closed here, right? It's closed on the other side. Therefore, because it's closed, it includes it at some point. You put the bracket. Okay? Comma. And what is the highest y value? The highest y value is up here, which happens to be +2, and it includes it because it touches it. So that's a bracket. Okay? So that is your domain and your range. Let's go ahead and go over the f of -2. So if you guys notice this one, f of -2, and you're wondering, wait, what does that mean? It basically is telling you that x is equal to -2. That's what it's telling you. Okay? So if you guys notice, it's asking you to find the y value when x equals -2. Now, we're talking about this -2 right here. So if I go straight down, it's supposed to be there, right? But because it's an open circle, it does not apply. It does not touch that point. So the answer would be here and A, does not apply, okay? Does not apply to this point. Now we go to the next one, and let me do it in light blue. So say this one right here says f of 1. Basically it's telling you when x is equal to 1. So if you go to your x value of 1, draw a line, right? Where does it touch the graph? It touches it here, right? You see where I'm coloring it in, making it super obvious. What is the y value there? The y value is 1. That means that f of 1 is equal to 1. Okay? Now, next one, let's do it in orange. This one says find x when f of x is equal to -2. This right here, what that's telling you is that y is equal. Right? That is equal to -2. So if you guys go to your y value of -2, it's here. Where does it touch my graph? Notice the point to the left, it does not touch it. does not apply, right? Because it's open, so that doesn't work. But if you go to the right, it touches it there, right? And what's that x value? That x value is right there. So that means x is equal to 2. You can also write it in function notation, which means f of 2 is equal to negative 2. Okay, we are going to go over some more examples, so don't panic. And last but not least, it is asking us if this is a relation, and the answer is yes. And you can say for many things, if you guys are familiar with the vertical line test, or you can also say every x has a different y. Okay, so for every x there's its own y value. All right, again, if you guys haven't looked up how does a vertical line test work, you can look it up. Some of you guys learned it in middle school, which is great. Let's go to the next box, box 2. All right, so we're going to start off with the domain and the range. So if you guys notice, domain is the lowest x value, which is negative 2, right? But wait, what do you guys notice at the end? At the end of the graph, it technically has an arrow. So it's not negative 2. Instead, we say it's negative infinity because it continues to the left. All right, comma. What's the highest x value? Right there, which happens to be 4. And it includes 4 because let me write it. It includes it because it has a closed circle, so we write a bracket. Okay, now let's go over my range. What is the lowest y value? Well, if you notice, this arrow technically is going to continue going down forever. So my range would be negative infinity because it continues going downward forever. But the highest one happens to be here, this point, because it's a dot, right? It doesn't have an arrow. And the highest one is negative 1. Again, it includes it, so I put a bracket because it's a closed circle. All right. Next one we have f of 4. We're looking for this. Basically, they're telling us that x is equal to 4. So when x is equal to 4, right here, and it happens to be that point that we were just talking about, what's the y value? Well, the y value is this point right here, which happens to be negative 1. So f of 4 equals negative 1. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. We have f of 0. Oops. F of 0, basically telling us that x is equal to 0. My x value is right here of 0. So it touches my graph right at this point. And what is that y value? That y value happens to be negative 2. So f of 0 equals negative 2. All right. The next one we have is this statement, which basically tells us that y is equal to 1, right? And y is equal to 1 is somewhere up here. And if you notice, going left, going to the right and left, doesn't touch it. So this would be NA, does not apply. Doesn't touch my graph. All right. Now, let's just say, and this is an additional example, you do not have to copy this one. Let me do it in green. But let's say they asked you find f of x when f of x is equal to negative 1.5. Negative 1.5, right? I'm doing this one on the bottom. Again, you don't have to copy it. Negative 1.5 would be somewhere here. And it touches right here. So what's your x value? It is 2. So you would say function of 2 is equal to negative 1.5. Okay, again, that was an extra example. You do not have to copy it. It was just an extra example. I'm being extra. All right. Next one. What I do recommend you guys do is for this one and the next box, pause the video. At some point, pause the video and see if you can come up with the domain range and the answers before I even go over them. Okay. It'll be a good practice. You don't, I'm still going to go over the answers, but you know, good practice. So your domain, notice that the arrows, these two arrows continue opening to the left and to the right. So your domain is going to be negative infinity, positive infinity. Okay. They're going to continue opening up for forever. Your range, the lowest y value that you have, again, they'll continue opening to the left and to the right and also to the bottom. Okay, they'll continue on forever. So it is negative infinity because they're going to go on to the bottom forever. But to the top, they actually peak. They stop. They stop right here, and that is when your y value is positive 2, and it includes it. So I'm going to write a bracket. Okay, now the next question is asking us to find f of negative 2.5. Again, they're basically telling me that x is equal to negative 2.5. So if I go to negative 2.5, it is somewhere here, and it touches my graph right there. What is my y value? My y value is 1. So my answer is 1. Next one, we have f of 4. They're basically telling me that my x value is 4. So x is equal to 4, which is right here. Where does it touch my graph? It touches it here. What is my y value? My y value happens to be negative 2. That's my answer. If I'm going too fast, don't forget, you guys have the power to pause me, okay? The last one says basically y is equal to 1. So we go to y is equal to 1, which is here, and I'm going to draw a line. Now, notice how many times it touches. It touches once right here, touches another time right here, touches here, and it touches here. That means your x values are going to be negative 1.5, that is here, which we already have, comma, this one also, which is negative 2.5 and negative 1.5. Then we have this one here, which happens to be 1.5, and then this one here, which happens to be 2.5. So this one has 4 different possible solutions. Negative 1.5, negative 2.5, 1.5, and 2.5. Okay, hope you guys paused the video and you tried it on your own before I went over it. All right, next one, last box. All right, by the way, before we even start, this is an arrow pointing up. This is an arrow pointing up. Again, if you guys want to pause the video and try it on your own, you're more than welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. My domain is my x values. So on the left side, it's negative 2, and it stops there with an open circle, so negative 2, and I'm putting a parenthesis because it's an open circle, okay? Comma. And on the right, notice the 4, but it has an arrow. And even though the arrow is pointing up, it continues to open to the right. So therefore, that's going to be infinity parentheses. All right. My range is my y values, and the lowest y value that I have is 0. And that's a bracket because it includes it. And for the top, it continues going towards the top. So that's going to be infinity, positive infinity with a parentheses. Okay. Now, if you guys are wondering why we put parentheses around the infinity, is because infinity doesn't represent a number. It represents the direction in which those numbers can continue to increase. All right. Now, let's go ahead and do f of negative 2. So basically, they're telling us, that x is equal to negative 2, right? So if my x is negative 2, it's right here. But keep in mind it's an open circle. That means it does not apply to that one. Okay. Next one we have f of 4, which means x is equal to 4. And I go up, 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 and it touches right here. That means that my y value or my answer is positive 8. So f of 4 is equal to 8. That's my answer for this one. One more. We have, it says find x when f of x equal to 2. Basically, they're telling us that y is equal to 2. So if y is equal to 2, right here, to the left, it's that point. But remember, because it's open circle, we don't include it. So this one doesn't apply to that one. We go to the right, it touches here. What's my x value? My x value is 2, so that means that x is equal to 2. I can also write it as f of 2 is equal to 2. Okay. Again, your handout for this assignment, it is posted on Schoology along with this video, along with the PDF of these notes. If you guys are still somewhat confused, don't worry. Notes, I'm also including notes 17B, which is additional practice that goes along with this. Okay. Again, if you guys have questions or anything like that, please email me or message me through Schoology. Again, I won't get to it till the weekend, but I will respond back. All right. Hope you guys are staying safe. Make sure you guys are wearing a mask.